Hello, and welcome back to Unconditional, a podcast from Transcend with Love. Well, the holidays are upon us. Thanksgiving is next week. There's many holidays during December, and then Christmas is towards the end of the month. So for the next couple months, we're probably going to be stressed out a little bit about holidays. I wanted to go ahead and talk about self-care while, in the next few episodes. I'm going to start today with overall and then go into a few different topics in the next episodes to come, specifically about self-care. Self-care is a word that's kind of been around for a while. It's been a buzzword. And if you'll find it on the internet, you'll find it on social media, you'll find it on Pinterest. There's a lot of information. And that's great, actually, because self-care is something that, even though it's been more talked about now and it's way more visible, and it's something that's considered healthy for parents, especially moms, and I say that because I'm a mom, it's difficult still because we put our self-care last. We're making sure that our children, our spouses, our parents, our siblings, our nieces and nephews, all of our loved ones are taken care of first, physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, every way you can imagine. And then we just kind of fall into all that. If they are taken care of, then we're taken care of. And the problem with that is that we don't necessarily look at our own needs. We just clump them in with everybody else. So especially right now with the holidays, it's very difficult for a lot of people. I specifically want to speak about or to the parents and family members that have just found out that their child is non-binary or transgender. And that's extremely difficult, especially with the holidays. It could be great, it could be hard, it could be all of the above. And so self-care, I think, is an important part of it. I looked up the dictionary, and I'm going to read it because I don't remember exactly what it said. But the dictionary states that the definition for self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. It seems pretty simple. And I know for a lot of people, health, you think of physical health. Well, yes, that's important because a lot of times the physical health also adds and helps improve our mental and emotional health. But the health that I'm talking about right now, especially when we're going to be talking about the holidays, is more so of an emotional and mental. When I looked up self-care, I found up to 8 different types of self-care, from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational. There was a couple more where it's like, self-insecurity, which is like your personal space. And I think social. Those were the 8 that I found. And all of those are very valid. I am not a therapist. I will say that every time. I am not a therapist. I will not be giving therapy or any type of therapeutic, that's not even a word, I don't think, therapeutic advice. This is much more of my own experience and everything that I've learned in this process and other people that I have talked to, not only in the parenting of a transgender individual, but also just parenting in general. We're all surrounded by parents, our friends, family members that have had children, and we all struggle with a lot of the same things. And self-care and giving ourselves self-care is one of them. So out of all of the ones that I listed, the ones I will be focusing on, like I stated, was emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical. A little bit of the physical. I have my notes. So I also wanted to talk about, let's go back and talk about the fact why it's so difficult for us as parents to put our own needs first. It immediately feels selfish. And anything we do for ourselves feels very self-indulgent. Whether that's just watching a movie, or it's going and having a drink with a friend or coffee with a friend, or just anything that takes time away from family, spouse, children, just family in general, and we take that time just for us. It seems selfish and it seems self-indulgent because we are responsible for so many people and so many other well-being, especially if we have younger children, that we don't have a lot of time to begin with, especially if we work. If we are full-time parents, full-time moms, and we also are, a mother and very engaged mother, which is what most parents do, there's very, very little time to focus on us. But the problem is that we then eventually run out of fuel. It's like any engine. Eventually, we just kind of hit the empty, and what comes out of us is pretty much just fumes. There's nothing material or anything productive that can come from us at that point because we are running on empty. And whether that's empty spiritually, whether that's empty emotionally, even physically, if we're exhausted physically, it's going to be very difficult for us to get out of bed because our body's going to give in and say, you just need to rest and you're going to get sick. At least that's what happens to me. When I've gone and gone and gone, and my body is like, okay, you're not stopping on your own, I'm going to stop you, I get sick. And before, I used to allow myself to do that, and it would take me days to recover. Now, at least, because I'm aware of it, I'm able to kind of see it as it's starting. And so I give myself a day to recover, and then I feel better, or half a day or whatever, something to kind of stop it before it goes out of control. And so the physical part of it is that. Now, if we also are out of gas when it comes to our emotional health, well, yeah, we can be there physically for our kids and for our spouse and for our family. We can be there. They can see us. We can sit next to them. We can do the things, make dinner, all the stuff, take them to practice, whatever. But we're not emotionally invested, which means we're pretty much just there. And as much as we can pretend, other people notice, especially our kids. Our kids notice when we are not invested. My kids were very, very adamant about letting me know when they could tell that emotionally and mentally I was not present. And they would call me out on it all the time. And it was so easy. And it's good because then at that point I became aware of it. Did I learn? No, not then, unfortunately. But as I'm getting older, I think I'm learning a little bit more. And then the same thing with mental. If you are mentally exhausted from work or from issues or from just, problem solving all day, then at the same time, you cannot mentally communicate with anybody, and you're just going to be there as well. You might emotionally be okay and physically be okay, but mentally you're just drained. And sometimes I feel that mental exhaustion is so much worse than physical exhaustion, because it doesn't matter. Even if you lay down, even if you sit and rest, you're still exhausted. So those are kind of like the ones I'm talking about, where we need to make sure that we can fill our tanks up to do that. And it's not selfish. It's not selfish because in order for us to give, we have to have. And nobody else can fill our cup the way that we can fill our cup. If you're a spiritual person, then yes, you can fill your cup spiritually also, but that also is considered self-care. You cannot fill yourself up spiritually unless you are taking that time for yourself to have that spiritual connection and the time to be able to do that. So allowing ourselves to have the time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever that looks like, it's something. It gives us back. It kind of we plug in to kind of refill our battery, to change the analogy, to refill our battery and kind of get charged up again. And we come from such a better place when we are full of our own love and our own health, because we're not doing things we're not doing things because we have to anymore. And we're not doing things with resentment, because eventually it turns into resentment. When we are giving out of an empty cup, it turns into I have to, I wish I didn't have to. And that builds even more bitterness and more resentment. So we need to make sure that we do this, that we fill our cups up, so then when we turn around and we have the attitude of I have the opportunity to do the homework with my children. I never thought that, by the way. I hated doing homework with my kids, especially science. Hated it. Either way, I could have come across with the more positive attitude of I get to help my child with this, help them with this, help them learn and love this subject. Just because I don't love the subject didn't mean that they didn't have to love the subject. But I was always going into it with such a negative point of view because I was exhausted. I was exhausted physically, I was exhausted mentally, and I was exhausted emotionally. I was just exhausted. And and as much as I wanted to take a day off, or as much as I wanted to go, let's say, get a massage or go do this, or heck, even get a therapist, I wouldn't, because I'd be like, well, I could be using that money for this, or I could be using that time for this, or I could, and there was always something more important. And unfortunately, after many, many years, that just all led to anxiety and depression and all kinds of negative things. Um, so, with that, the reason I'm talking about this is because when you first find out, or when you're at the beginning stages of finding out that your child is non-binary or transgender, it is a huge, huge discovery. And the first meeting, like first holidays, especially the first ones, I mean, it kind of works like this for a while, but especially the first ones are very difficult. It could be that one, your family doesn't know. Okay. And maybe at that time your child doesn't want anybody to know yet. So that's okay. You kind of have the secret, and we really maybe are anxious about it, but nobody really knows. Your child's not ready. So it's a little anxious, but not, it's doable. But if you're at a point where your child is ready to come out to your family, and your family doesn't know anything, and you're still especially not sure how to feel about everything, the pressure of holiday season is even more so, because now it's not just the pressure of what am I going to make? Who do I have to help with? Who do I have to pick up? What do I have to take? Am I responsible for anything? Oh my gosh, I need to make sure that I buy this, this, and this in time so that I'm not there the day before and have to deal with all the crowds at the grocery store. It's also that, plus what am I going to say? How is this going to happen? What are they going to say? It's like, if I don't agree, then okay, I want to protect my child, but maybe I should convince them to not say anything yet, or maybe they're already are going, or they're going to say it anyways. But I don't know how to best support them in this case, and also not feel the rejection and the anger and the hurt from either my family or from them, or just who knows, all of these questions. And it's exhausting. It's an emotional like drain. um because you don't know. You get so caught up in your anxiety of what are they going to say? What are they going to think? Who's not going to speak to us anymore? How are they going to treat my child? I don't want anybody being disrespectful, but at the same time, I don't want to be disrespectful to them either, because everybody has their own beliefs. There's so many different ways. You could be totally against it, and then you can be totally for it. You can be in the middle. Either way, it causes anxiety and a lot of stress. So with that, I wanted to kind of talk about this. Everybody's journey, like I've stated many times before, everybody's journey is different. Whether you agree, whether you don't agree, whether you're kind of in the middle, still not understanding, or you're somewhere there in that whole kind of journey of it all, it's still the first time in seeing family since the news is awkward. It's nerve-wracking. So I really kind of wanted to say that this is a time for us as parents to take that time to do some self-care. Any self-care at this point is going to be great, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 10, like I said before, whether it's you just sitting down and journaling. There's so many different ways of self-care. The best thing to do is to just try to get ready. Try to get ready for what you think is going to happen. And sometimes that's the problem, is we don't know what's going to happen. So we build up all kinds of scenarios. Well, these scenarios sometimes are extreme, sometimes they're over exaggerated, because that's what our mind does. Let's throw us into the most, extreme scenarios possible and see how we can not die from this. Literally, like we have the fear of actually being able to die from. That's how bad our anxiety is. So take some time to do self-care. Whether, like I said, whether it's, if it's you're a spiritual person, then take some time to connect with your, with God, with your higher power. Pray and meditate and just really be honest. Be honest when you are praying, when you're meditating, when you are communicating, because the only way, I mean, he already knows. He already knows how you feel. You just need to open that communication, because what you want is peace. And you're not going to get peace until you spiritually and emotionally and mentally are there. And a lot of times it takes one at a time. Sometimes it's all three at once. I didn't find peace until I had prayed for a while. And in that, I finally, little by little, in each step that I was taking, I was getting the peace from that specific decision. And so that's how I ended up doing it. There was a lot of nervousness and a lot of anxiety in between, don't get me wrong. But that's when I knew I was making the right decision, was when I would end up with peace at the time I made the decision, and especially afterwards when I would see results from it. So what would it take to give you peace about the gathering with your family and friends? Maybe that's just something to think about. Also, maybe you do take time to get a massage just to really physically relax yourself. That a lot of times helps mentally relax yourself between the praying and, or take a walk. I mean, if we don't have time, or a massage is, not financially responsible right now, something that you can do responsibly, then take a walk. It takes no money to walk. 5 minutes. Just take a walk and go smell. I love to just walk on grass barefoot, but that's just me. That's just always been me since I was little. Just connect with nature. That a lot of times is very calming. The important thing is to take time for yourself so that you then can be in the right space, mental and emotional space, for your child, and whatever that looks like. Whether it's just being there as they speak their truth and not agreeing or disagreeing with it, but at the same time, not allowing others to disparage them. Or if it's you defending them, ferociously, or if it's ferociously, sorry, I made another word up. Or it's that you're completely, you really don't know, so you kind of do both. But whatever it is that gives you peace, you need to be able to find that, so that you can then be there for your child when this happens. Also, have a conversation with them. Find out what they want. Like, do they want to tell people? What exactly do they want to say? Do they just want to say, hey, I'm non-binary and this is what it means? Or, hey, I'm trans, but I'm not really transitioning yet? Or, I mean, what are they comfortable sharing? That is the most important thing. And then from there, I would try to come to peace with whatever it is, the boundaries that you're wanting to set for your child and for yourself and for the rest of your family. It's really not as easy. It's hard. It's not as easy as it sounds. I'm making it sound like, yeah, you do this and you do this, but that's not easy. But I would start with taking some time for you. It's very important. And what the worst thing you want to do, or not the worst, the last thing you want to do is be so empty, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, that you can't be there for anybody. And your child, the way they need you now is to feel like they're not abandoned or rejected, regardless of your thoughts, regardless of your beliefs. As children, they look up to us to protect them in every way. And this is one way of doing that. I appreciate y'all's time today. I'm going to end right now. I have the next few episodes. We're going to keep talking about self-care. Next week is the week of Thanksgiving. For those that watch this later, just kind of know that that's where I'm coming from. And so I'm actually going to broadcast this on Wednesday instead of Thursday. And what I want to do on Wednesday is kind of give some tips, some just like tips and advice of little things we can do to de-stress or kind of make Thanksgiving a little easier with with this conversation or this subject that is going to probably be touched on and talked about. Until then, I thank you so much for being on, for watching this. It's I love being able to just give you the information that I have. Like I said, I am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I am a mentor, And what that means is that I've been through it. I've experienced all of it. Experienced a lot of it, not all of it, obviously. And so I'm just here to help those that are new, because I wish I had someone like me when I first went through this, or first found out almost 9 years ago. Also, I'm going to put in the description. I'm going to give some shout outs to some links that I was able to use when looking for this information. But yeah, so stay tuned till next week. Remember that I do offer some 30-minute free consultation calls. If you have any questions, or if you just need someone to, just listen, give me a shout. Reach out to me in any way that you can. And like I say, the only way to love is unconditionally. It doesn't matter who or what. It's the through unconditional love and support and respect for each other, yourself and your loved one, everything can be transcended. Have a great day. Bye.